My name is Wynne. I would first of all like to say thank you to everybody that liked, subscribed, engaged with my video last week in any shape or form. I really do appreciate it. Today I am going to be talking about how my love affair with Peter Cushing began, with the kind of gothic classic horror genre in general. I say platonic because, first of all, Cushing is over 100 years old, and also men, I'm not that way inclined. I'm gay, so it just wouldn't. Also, just massive, age gap. No. You can appreciate somebody's talent without being attracted to them. And I have such an admiration for the man, but it really does stop there. I began this obsession of mine about 7 years ago, which sounds really odd to me because I don't know, it's been a long time, and it's kind of, I think I said in my video last week that I don't remember what it was like before I had this in my life. Like, I'm constantly thinking about these films and Cushing and with these actors that I love, and so much of what I love and what I talk about, what I think about is horror based, and there was a time where I didn't have that, and I can't remember what that was like. I mean, I was younger, I was interested in fairies, princesses, I don't know, I was quite girly when I was growing up, but you can be girly and like horror films, that's completely fine. I was a young teenager at school, and we began a unit on Dracula, and we read a play adaptation of Stoker's novel, which at the time I was led to believe was quite close to the novel, and I can say that now that I have much more of an understanding of the novel as I've got older. And at the end of the term, we watched this. This is Todd Browning's Dracula from 1931, starring Bela Lugosi. I have heard that the correct pronunciation is Bela, but I'm so used to saying Bella that we're just going to have to stick with that. It's like, I know that it's Harley Quinn and not Harlequin. Like, Harlequin is a word. My dad used to always say Harlequin, so I'm used to saying Harlequin. I know it's Harley Quinn. And yeah, Bela Lugosi, it's just something I've always said. Everybody else was laughing because of the questionable special effects, and because otherwise the film would be boring because it was in black and white. I had never seen a black and white film before, aside from like the beginning of The Wizard of Oz, and I wasn't laughing along with everybody else because there was just something about this film. I'd never seen anything like this before at all, and it just drew me in a really amazing way. I went and told my dad. He got very excited. His love for horror that he had shared with his dad had kind of been like lying dormant for many years, and this is an opportunity to sort of geek out. Like, I hate using that phrase, but I don't know what else. Like, I'm not gonna say fangirl or fanboy, but yeah, he got very excited because he was particularly a fan of Christopher Lee. I have spoken to him about the possibility of him being featured on this channel, talking about his love for films, these films and Christopher Lee, because I'm Team Cushing, he is Team Lee, but he does love Cushing as well. I mean, who doesn't? Unless you've not seen him, And the 1958 Dracula from Hammer was on the horror chart, so my dad recorded it for me. This is the Blu-ray DVD that actually belongs to my dad, but at the time we watched it recorded on TV. Before that, I don't actually have it with me, but I will link it in the description if I can find it. I went to the works and I bought myself this beautiful kind of treasury of stories of like gothic literature, mainly vampires, and there were extracts from Dracula in there. There was an abridged version of Carmilla. There was some E.F. Benson, some as Carmilla, Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu, M.R. James, Count Magnus. You know, it's a really amazing book, and I am keeping it because even though it's kind of rated like 7 and up, the illustrations are mesmerizing, but they are quite gory. And you know, they're not nice stories. I mean, no, they're nice in that like they are a joy to read, but they're dealing with quite grown up themes. So I personally wouldn't read it to a child, but you know, I was a young teenager when I read this. But yeah, I bought this book. I bought my copy of 1931 film for £1.50, if I remember rightly, and my dad and I watched this recorded from Horror Channel. I knew who Christopher Lee was, mainly from his appearance in The Lord of the Rings. We had seen The Fellowship of the Ring 1,000 times. I don't think I was possibly. I'd maybe just seen The Two Towers, or was about to. Like, my parents were quite careful about the things that they let me watch when I was growing up, because, you know, I had quite a vivid imagination. I used to get quite bad nightmares, and they tended to like stick to certificates for things. But yes, I think at this point I had only seen The Fellowship of the Ring, and I knew Christopher Lee as Saruman. But I didn't, you know, when you're younger, you don't really have much of an awareness of like what came before. Like the fact that this old geezer had a ridiculously lengthy and impressive career up until that point and was still going. Like I hadn't thought about that before. Like I hadn't had any reason to kind of seek these films out, because you know, I didn't mind these films. I liked them. There was something about these older films that I did really love and find absolutely fascinating. But you know, I suppose I unconsciously subscribed to the ideas that old films were boring, so I didn't have any like need to watch them. I'm just gonna, sorry about this. I'm kind of like experimenting with like camera angles and lighting, and also filming this in landscape orientation this time, because last time I got confused, did it in portrait. I had to like zoom it to fill, but hopefully I remember to do it properly this time. Yeah, sorry, so I need to stay on topic. We watched this film, knew who Christopher Lee was. It's a brilliant intro with Christopher Lee and Jonathan Van Essen and Valerie Gaunt. Loved it. But I didn't know that the best was yet to come, because I think, I don't know, it must be about 20 minutes into the film, possibly less, I'm not really sure, you get your first glimpse of Peter Cushing. I didn't know who this man was. He is in Star Wars, but at the time I didn't connect the two. But yes, I had seen Star Wars, like, you know, many people have. And walks into this inn. The logo for which it's two keys crossed and there are garlic flowers hanging kind of in the eaves of this building, and there's a music box playing. Like it's just a really lovely, quaintly, like strangely British setting, even though we know it's supposed to be set in Germany. And Peter Cushing walks in, you just see him from behind, and he says good day and asks if he can have a brandy. And there was just something so striking about this man's face. You know, it's his bright blue eyes, it's the aquiline features that I think, you know, Lee has too, to some extent. You know, these men were born to play figures like Dracula and Sherlock Holmes, who are recognised like facially for their very sort of pointed aquiline features. I love the word aquiline, it's a fabulous word. You know, kind of sort of eagle-like, very sort of pointed and pronounced. We have like a bit of an in-joke in this house that we're always going on about how Peter Cushing was blessed with quite a large nose. And yeah, his striking looks are one of the things that make him so I think like charismatic. You know, you want to look at this bloke. And yeah, there was just something, I didn't know who this man was, but I felt this feeling of I was so like drawn in by this man in a similar way, you know, similar to the feeling I'd felt when I'd watched the Lugosi. But you know, Lugosi is very good in that role, but I wasn't particularly drawn to him. Like, I was just drawn to, I think, the setting, and I mean just the tone of the film, but there was something about this man. And, you know, he and Lee frequently starred opposite each other, and I believe I mentioned last week that my dad and I refer to their joint films as Cush-Lee films. And they, both of them just ooze charisma, but there is something about Cushing. And I feel like that is going to be the phrase that I say the most during this video. It is, apologies if you heard that, my stomach is wanting food. There is just something about him that nobody else quite has. You know, he was just so focused, so meticulous, so brilliantly inhabited every role that he played. And yeah, I first saw him as Van Helsing in the second of Hammer's Gothic horrors. The first was, of course, The Curse of Frankenstein. This particular cover, well, DVD copy, annoys me because the back we have a screenshot. I don't know if you can, like a still from The Mummy. And yeah, that's wrong. I do get quite like a number of the like DVDs and Blu-rays that we have, like the synopsis on the back of them. It's quite interesting. People got things wrong. I would quite happily be employed to write these things, these DVDs, because yeah, I wouldn't put a still from a completely different film, for example. I'm just checking. I was just trying to check the time and I accidentally pressed stop. I'm sure that the transition here in the video will be fine for you, but yeah, it's fine. We will continue. But yeah, Curse of Frankenstein, first of Hammer's Gothic horror films. It was the first British horror movie in colour, and interestingly, on the subject of, you know, this collection of films that I have here, this was the first horror movie with sound, and this was the first British horror movie with colour. I watched this one also recorded from the Horror Channel, and I watched this on my own. And the first time I saw it, I watched it just before going to bed on a school night. You know, Cushing is so chameleon-like, and it's almost unbelievable that it is the same man playing the noble, gentle Van Helsing in Dracula. And then the same person transforms into Frankenstein, who is this cold, heartless, like horrible man, but he does it so well. Like, you despise him, but he's brilliant. And yeah, so it's a little bit of a twisted kind of thing there. Like, we like villains, you know, and you want him to succeed, but at the same time, you know that he will deserve his comeuppance. And yeah, it's just, yeah, there's one scene in particular, well, two scenes I can think of, in which he kills victims, and I'm not going to kind of go too much into this because I don't want to spoil it. As I said before, I'm aware there will be some people watching this that probably don't appreciate spoilers, but I think one can assume in a Frankenstein film, or indeed any horror film, that at least somebody is going to die. And it's just the look on his face, like, the whisper of like this kind of devilish smile after these people have died, and it's brilliant. Apologies, by the way, the sun has come in, which is why my face is aglow. Yeah, I just don't think, I said in my last video that Cushing is the greatest actor to ever walk this earth, in my opinion. And yes, I say is because I don't like referring to him in the past tense, even though I know that I don't know why it's so bright, apologies. Even though I know that he's not with us anymore. Yeah, it's so hard to talk about these films to potentially somebody that doesn't know them, because they are just so special to me, and I love them. I just I have, as I said, I think earlier, the utmost of admiration for this man. He was a genuine actor, and another thing that I believe I mentioned last week is that you know, he was part of a generation of actors and filmmakers that genuinely saw film as an art, and they gave everything to it. And I think, unfortunately, now, because so many of us are driven by making the most money, it isn't always about that anymore. You know, Cushing was the kind of man that, you know, he could have gone out and got a job when he was struggling financially, just to, like, a steady job, but acting was that thing which he embodied entirely with his heart and his mind and his soul. And his friends, those that knew him, they were in his corner to help make that work. And you can tell how, I think, much of a privilege he knows, as I think most actors, but not all, he knows that it is not easy to enter the acting world. I think especially now, it is something you have to work for. You can't enter half-heartedly, and I think I do speak the truth when I say that Peter Cushing never gave a bad performance, because it wasn't just like something to put food on the table at the end of the day, you know. It was his life. I have one more film that I want to talk about before I wrap this video up. I'm aware that it probably won't be as long as last week. Thank you though, if you are still here, because I'm aware that I'm not able to talk for a short amount of time. This is the Gorgon, and this is the first Hammer film that I bought. The first, I was going to say the first classic horror film, but I had Dracula from 1931 first. But yeah, this is the first Hammer film, Gorgon. I debated whether to include this in my list last week, but I wanted to talk about it here. I didn't want to sound too much like a broken record. I'm also aware that I briefly mentioned Captain Clegg, I believe, which was a Hammer film, but I didn't mention the Gothic horrors. I'm also aware that I haven't got The Mummy here. So, you know, we had The Curse of Frankenstein, then Dracula, then The Mummy. But I am going to do another film talking about the classic Hammers in more detail. I definitely have things to say. And yeah, so these 4 films that I have here are very special. This one is also good because it's got a booklet in it. Yeah, they are just, I don't want to say I'm lost for words, because that seems like such an inappropriate phrase to apply to somebody like me that clearly has so much to say, but I think blessed that I've been exposed to such a wonderful legacy. I have no idea what I would say to Peter Cushing if I met him. Obviously, I'm not going to right now in this earthly life, but if I did, I think I would just say thank you. You know, art can touch us so deeply in such a wonderful, ineffable way. And you know, we all need art in one form or another. I do love all kinds of art, but for me, and I don't think I would say that film is it for me, because I love spoken radio. I'm obsessed with the pre-Raphaelite movement. I love poetry, I love books, I love music, and I love film. Like, there's almost too much to enjoy. And I think it's nice to sometimes just sit back, slow down, and appreciate what we already have, as opposed to always worrying about what's going to come out next. There is already so much that many of us have yet to discover and unlock, and that is why it's another reason I love these films so much. I know that I haven't seen all of Cushing's films. I know that there are several that have not been released in this country yet. And yeah, it's a really exciting journey, and it's one that I go on with my dad. It's very special to be able to share something so wonderful with somebody else, and I hope to be able to also share it with my children, and you know, all my uni friends. They know how much I love Peter Cushing, but they've not seen any of his films yet, and yeah, I don't think that there has ever been, will ever been, an actor quite like Cushing. So that's where it all began. That's why I love him. Thank you so much for listening to my story. And yeah, hopefully I will see you again next week. Take care, everybody.